A lot of people ask me on social media, Ulysses, what do I need in order to buy a house? And it's a very complex question, but I'm going to try to be as simple as possible so that if you've been on the fence and you're watching this video, hopefully this can help you out. Number one, unless we buy the house cash, we are going to need to apply for a home loan or a mortgage. Another question that I feel it's extremely important to ask, and I do this all the time at my buyer consultations, which are free, by the way, is how much of a payment can you afford? A lot of real estate agents make the mistake of showing houses to buyers, especially first-time buyer families, and they get them pre-approved through a lender, and they don't ask the buyer what kind of a payment are you looking for, because just because you might have gotten approved for $1 million, that doesn't mean you want to spend that much. So the first thing, or one of the first things that I always ask is, how much of a payment can you afford comfortably without changing your current lifestyle? This is very important. Another thing is, what are the costs or expenses in order to buy a home? Well, number one, we have to talk down payment. Now, again, not every loan is going to fit everybody. Every loan is different. Every family, every situation is different. But you're going to need some sort of down payment. Now, you might say, Ulysses, I've heard that there's loans in which you don't require a down payment. And you're absolutely right. If you're a veteran that was honorably discharged, you can potentially buy a house with no money down. You can also qualify potentially for a down payment assistance loan. What's your FICO, how much money you made, and there's a certain threshold that you cannot go over. So again, there's down payment assistance for those that qualify. But traditionally, most first-time buyers are going to go with what's called an FHA first-time buyer down payment. That requires only 3.5%. So just to give you an example, on a $500,000 house, your down payment is probably going to be somewhere around $17,000, $18,000. You might say, Ulysses, I don't have any of that. Well, as an FHA first-time buyer, your down payment can be gifted by relatives, friends, siblings, maybe your spouse. Closing costs. What are closing costs? Closing costs are usually the fees related to the purchase. And these have a lot to do with lender fees, origination cost, appraisal, upfront property taxes that escrow may require. So usually closing costs, you want to calculate somewhere around 3% of the purchase price. So again, if we're looking for a house that's $600,000, calculate at least 3% or no more than 3%. I always like to overestimate so that my clients can have the worst case scenario. So again, on a $600,000 purchase, 3% would be $18,000. And if we're looking at a property that's an FHA loan, you're looking at about $21,000, $22,000 on a $600,000 purchase. So $18,000 and $18,000 for closing, that's $36,000. You might say, Ulysses, man, that's a lot of money. Before you turn off the video or scroll down and continue watching something else that's not going to put you in a path of home ownership, listen to me on this one. Closing costs can be negotiated when we write up an offer on your behalf. Even though the market has already shifted and interest rates have already gone down, there is still time for sellers to potentially help you with closing costs, whether it's a portion of it or all of it. And the sooner you give somebody like myself that's a real estate broker in the business for over 18 years a call, we're going to find out where we are as far as the current market. Because the current market, real estate is always changing as far as the market. So there's closing costs, there's your down payment, and then there's two other out-of-pocket expenses. Home inspection and your appraisal. One of the questions that I get asked is, Ulysses, how much is a home inspection? That is going to depend on the size of the house, if it's 2 stories, if it has a pool. Again, the bigger, the more time a home inspector is going to require to be there. And usually home inspections last anywhere between 3 to 5 hours. So I always encourage buyers to be there. And as a buyer agent, I'm always present at my buyer's home inspection. So if you're watching this video, you're a real estate agent and you don't show up to your buyer home inspections, that's one way to engage and bond and have your buyers truly see who they have on their corner. And another one is the appraisal. The appraisal is paid for by the buyer to the lender, and then the lender hires a third-party company to do the appraisal. And basically what an appraisal is a professional opinion of what somebody feels a home is worth at that particular moment. That's why every appraisal is dated. So we got down payment, we got closing costs. Once you're in escrow, it's home inspection and appraisal. Keep in mind, home inspection and appraisal are non-refundable, which means that if for whatever reason you have to back out of the escrow, cancel the purchase because either the appraisal had appraisal difference and the seller didn't want to meet you in the middle, or there was a lot of repairs that the seller was unable or unwilling to do, and for whatever reason we got to start all over, home inspection and appraisal are non-refundable because we hired a third-party company. So again, what if you don't have the 3.5%? Don't get discouraged. Let's find out what other options there are for you. Again, not limited to down payment assistance if you qualify. If you're a veteran that was honorably discharged, you could potentially purchase with no money down. So that $18,000 that we figured over here, it might be zero. And closing costs, like I said, usually it's no more than 3%, but we can incorporate that into an offer if you hire somebody like myself that is absolutely a beast when it comes to negotiating offers and contracts on behalf of my buyers. But again, we won't know any of this until you give me a call so that we can schedule a no obligation consultation. Remember, consultations are free and every situation is different. I always hear, but Ulysses, my family member bought 25 years ago and they didn't need any of this. 25 years ago, the market was different. 25 years ago, rates were different. 25 years ago, I was 20. The market is different. I'm sure 25 years ago, the price of gas and milk wasn't the same as it is now. Prices go up. That's just the cost of living. Everything goes up. Inflation. So if you have any questions about the process, give me a call, shoot me a message, send me a DM, and I'd love to hear your story.